Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in again. I want to say thank you for the recent support I've gotten and welcome to the new subscribers. I've received some very positive comments and I appreciate the feedback. I'm going to open up with a statement I initially wanted to close the video off with, given its importance. I want to front load the video. There are many other concepts I would like to bring up, but I want to do a little thought experiment by asking, do you think that all these right-wing rallies, where we lost ground, would have been far more effective if the focus was not necessarily to be louder than a violent left, but rather a civilized celebration of our culture alongside moderate politicals who are curious to learn about our people and to celebrate our people? I would say that this would have been far more effective. Even if the right-wing crowds of these rallies were louder and more violent than the left-wing side, I doubt that many standard-bys would have been converted to the right-wing belief system. Additionally, why would you ask somebody off of the street, the average American, who is so indoctrinated, to be a white nationalist on the spot when they're not even aware that mass murder of whites was covered up by our media? Now, I'm not arguing for or against white nationalism in this video, but I am saying that these are layered ideas that most identitarians come to over the course of years of study and after serious life events that make them change their perspective. So give people the ability to research rather than giving them ultimatums on the spot. Today is an update and explanation of the most recent video, the South African Genocide ad that I posted. I'll be publishing this ad on YouTube and Instagram in hopes of educating the unknowing and potentially getting them to ask questions. To emphasize the importance of such campaigns, I'd like to point out that a friend of mine was able to reach over several thousand people on Instagram by spending $15 on a similar styled ad. This is a testament to how powerful media campaigns can be and a reminder as to why we should ask other figures in the movement why this is not being carried out yet. I'll give you an update after the ad is run, but I will continue to run it throughout the year as much as I can. But before I put out the ad, I would like to create a video exposing the American cover-up of the South African genocide. Oftentimes, your opponents or just simple listeners and standard-bys will question what the significance of this is, since it did not happen in America. They may even say that it is not an American issue. But this is where you should actually remind them of the fact that American media actively attempted to cover up the mass murder of Dutch in South Africa. And to a great degree, this was the murder of Dutch children due to their inability for self-defense. They were targeted. It is absolutely an American issue in that sense, and we should ask why it was covered up and what the motive of such a cover-up was. It's also a bit hypocritical for mainstream politics to be involved in areas like North Africa fighting Boko Haram, be involved in the Middle East fighting ISIS or the Taliban or remnants of the Mujahideen, or wherever they are. Over 110 countries, I've heard up to 170 countries where troops are stationed, but they're not willing to talk about this. And additionally, just because there was a media fervor around this during the time of Trump's early presidency does not mean that it should be forgotten, particularly in an era where politicians sit in their ivory towers and guilt-trip the common men by reminding them of past events he has no relation to. In the same respect that the Armenian genocide was not forgotten, and because of those in the Armenian and Greek communities affected having an unwillingness to be silenced, this white genocide and mass enslaving of women, actually, is gaining more and more traction in the mainstream and in mainstream academia. I will talk about how the Armenians are succeeding in future videos and how we can borrow their tactics. Ask yourself, why is it that Americans are reminded incessantly about Central American murders by the hands of Spaniards in countries outside of the U.S., sometimes even in South America, or why we are constantly reminded about the Germans and shamed about them, even though we were the ones who fought against them and defeated them, and we had nothing to do with their ideologies. So why are we constantly reminded of a slave trade that originated actually half a millennium ago and was rivaled in volume by the Berber and Ottoman trades of whites, and that ended nearly 160 years ago and gets closer to 200 years every single day? I've never owned a slave, and my people are being murdered, and it's being covered up present day, so I'm not sure why we're the ones who are called devils. Before I leave you, I would like to touch on a final topic, which is that of debate. Debate can be beneficial in this community, and some of the more academic members have been drawn into the identity and civil rights conversation through said debate. But how much of that is really worth our time? In a world where culture is being progressively destroyed, is it more or less beneficial to infight or to create? I would say it's best to focus on creating. There is an endless rabbit hole of negativity you can explore, and it really never ends. The best thing that we can do to exact revenge on a spiteful enemy is to thrive, and to live, and to create. Of course, defend yourself when you have to, but it's far better to help your own culture flourish and to celebrate it than begin an argument with an enemy that has no interest in what is right and what is wrong. Thank you for tuning in. There will be much progress this week. Stay in touch and feel free to reach out in the comments below.